and welcome back to the Talkoffame podcast. I'm Kylie Montigney, and I'm so excited to welcome Sarah Gibbons to the show. Welcome to the show, Sarah. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me and for being patient with me over these last couple weeks since I had to reschedule, which is very unlike me, but I'm delighted to be here with you this
Not a
morning.
problem. So, as you live in LA, and that's something that over the last few weeks is kind of going all around the world is a fires. Like, how are you kind of navigating the challenges posed by the fires right now in LA?
It's a big question. How am I navigating it? Well, first and foremost, I'm navigating it with my husband, and that is a huge, huge help. John is my husband, been together for a very long time, and the words aren't even coming to me. I mean, the whole thing has been so surreal. We have raised our boys the last 13 years in the Palisades community. Our boys are sixth grade, eighth grade, and in high school. So they are very much at the age where they're impacted. And, I think what we have found over the last couple of weeks is that we've really had to go back to basics. So I actually have taken 3 weeks off of work, which, as I say, that doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but that was a huge deal for me. I had to reschedule and let all of my clients know and reschedule. My team had to manage a lot of logistics. But what I found is that going back to basics of sleeping, ensuring that my kids feel safe and supported, my own emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being was felt totally under attack. And so I am back to basics. I'll go back to work in about a week and a half. So for right now, I'm actually doing this call from a client's house who has generously given us their house for the last couple or for the next 2 weeks until we move into a 6 month rental. But it's really, it feels like two steps forward and then a few steps back and then two steps forward again.
Oh, like I understand that because like when I saw everything over the news, like when it first started, I was like, I didn't expect it to be like that crazy. I thought it was just a normal fire in California. Because California generally gets fires year
Mhm.
round. So I didn't think it was gonna be crazy. I thought it was maybe just gonna be maybe a couple of days or so, staying in the same spot or same area. I didn't really think anything of it when it first started. Then the next day, I decided to turn on the news, and then it took all these acres, new fires have started. I'm like, this is so different compared to what other fires are. And I didn't think like it was gonna be as big as it has and destroyed as many things in areas, businesses, homes, schools, like as big as it did. Like that, I believe
Mhm.
that is
Mhm.
probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, fire California has experienced in its history since it was created.
It is. It is.
Like it's like so surreal. I know like when me and
Mhm.
you were talking about this before we started recording,
Mhm.
like it's just not the same or will be the same as it was a few months ago.
That's right. I mean, the life that we all knew, whether you were in Altadena or Pasadena or the Palisades, in my case, I mean, when you imagine your day-to-day routine where you just go out the door and we have a dog, I'm walking the dog, I see neighbors that I know that I've always seen, or I pop into the grocery store and I see checkers who I've known for the last 13 years. All of it is so familiar, and yet all of it is gone. The structures are gone. Everyone has been displaced. It's almost like it doesn't exist now. And so it's turned everything upside down. And I think I'll just speak for myself, but um, you almost feel like you're walking through and you almost feel like a zombie. Like, how could this actually be happening? And then it's the whole thing is exhausting.
Hmm.
And I would say for me, someone who is an executive leadership coach, I do have a huge toolkit, but by no means does that mean that I have all of this figured out. I If anything, I'm looking to my people who support me, my coaches, my dear friends, my family, my clients who have shown up for me in ways that I just take my breath away. And thank goodness for that.
That's the most important thing. Like I know, like especially during these times, that's when people really start to gather together, especially like when COVID happened. Like
Hmm.
everyone was
Hmm.
stuck at home. I don't know how like bad California was during the pandemic, but for Pennsylvania, like it got hit hard and was never the same ever again. And with
Yes.
the community I live in, I'm like in the Scranton Wilkes-Barre area. So that's like 2 hours outside of Philly. So like with our area, it's like a small like knit in terms of like everyone knows everyone, it's a small town. Like everyone does kind of gather around each other during this time. And this most of our calls are kind of like this on Zoom. And
Hmm.
like when we see people, like especially after COVID or after like a certain tragedy, we're like, what are we supposed to do now? To sit around and not do anything? And where do I live? Like where am I supposed to live? Like where's my family at? Like we just don't
Hmm.
know what to do. Like that reminds me of
Hmm.
that. And that's really when our family and friends really gather around after such a tragedy is that even if
Hmm.
something happened, like maybe the California wildfires this past couple of weeks, and seeing how people just come around and really impact each other has really been a beautiful blessing in
Hmm.
such a tragedy.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you had a remarkable career journey from working with companies like Amazon and IMDb to founding your coaching practice. Like, what led you
Mhm.
to transition from the corporate tech role to focus on spiritual psychology and transformative
Mhm.
leadership?
Well, I didn't know what I wanted to do out of college, and I had the good fortune of starting my career in Seattle and working for companies like you mentioned, Amazon, and I loved the people, I loved the fast pace, but what was lacking for me was a real sense of heart and feeling like I was being of service. And one of my values, and I think it's been there ever since I was a little girl, was really feeling like I was making a difference. And at the same time, I was in a career that was lucrative and it provided great perks, traveling, eating out where I wanted to go, all those kind of things that, help you enjoy life in that regard. But anyway, we had moved to London for both of our jobs and had our first child over there. And I really, even though I loved what I was doing working for Fox Interactive Media, I loved the people I worked with. They were amazing. But again, I just felt this like inner calling that my life's work was not anchored in media and
Mhm.
selling advertising and managing teams in that way. And so when we moved back to LA, I was working with a coach and she had brought up this program at University of Santa Monica that was a master's in spiritual psychology. And I'll be honest, it sounded ridiculous to me. It sounded very woo-woo. My ego was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm coming from, sort of top of my game in the tech and media and entertainment world. And she said, just go check it out. And so, long story short, I went and checked it out. I enrolled in applied, went through the 2-year program. I was pregnant with my third. I was managing a sales team. I had a lot going on, trying to keep my marriage and all of those, everything important to me going. And that put me on a different path. And I didn't know what I was going to do after that degree. But what I did know is that I've always, always loved being in conversation with people.
Mhm.
I've always felt like I've had the ability to see um, people spark and at the same time provoke them in a way that gives them a different perspective, whether it be in business, in life and family and personal relationships. And so when I got out of the program, I thought, all right, I think coaching is calling me. And then I ended up getting my first, couple of my first clients. And that led me to discovering within coaching the type of people I like to coach, the kind of values that I'm drawn to, and the type of work I like doing. And then that, now it's been 14 years later, and I'm running my own coaching company, and I love what I do. The people that I work with are phenomenal.
I love it. Like to think like to go study psychology, spiritual psychology. Honestly, if someone was to that to me, I'd be like, no, there's no way. Like
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
studying spiritual psychology. Like someone would probably have to pay me a lot of money to study 2 years in spiritual to study spiritual psychology. Like I'm not spiritual in no means by
Hmm.
psychology. I love, but spiritual is a whole different way for
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
know for a lot of people that's kind of the same way. But like to
Hmm.
study that, to leave London and move to California after
Hmm.
living there for a couple of years and working with a big, like a decent amount of job, and but to like move and to get a new, like to study and get a new degree is something that not a lot of people generally do after their
Hmm.
first 4 years of college.
You're right, it isn't. And I think I was on the phone this morning with a dear friend of mine who's an extraordinary coach. And she was asking how we were doing. And she and I text every morning. And she said, you're so resilient. And I said, I don't know, am I? And I think I am quite resilient, but I really value experience.
Yeah.
And I also really value truth, living in truth. And for me, that means in my work and in my relationships. And it would have been really easy for me. And we see this all the time out in the world where people continue on a path because it's what they know and they're good at it and they have insurance and it's somewhat easy and maybe it pays well, maybe it doesn't, but regardless, it's comfortable. And I am someone who does not choose comfort. And as I'm saying this, I'm like, this is very applicable to the situation I'm in now. But I will choose the unknown before I will choose comfort. And that has served me really, really well, both in my personal life, my life with with my family, but absolutely in my career.
Like I am the exact same way. Like I'd rather choose uncertainty rather than being comfortable in my career. Because I was like, I'm the type of person I would go for something even though I probably won't think about it. I'll just don't think twice and I'll do it no matter if I'm comfortable with it or not. And I
Hmm.
know a lot of people are like that. And that is something that I know scares me like in a million different ways. And that is why I should think about it before I actually respond to the message or an email because even though you should face the uncertainty and be okay with being uncomfortable in your career, it's okay to grow, but at the same time, you have to deal with what you're comfortable with in your career.
Hmm.
Not do something that you are not used to or what you've done before, which is something to
Hmm.
do often to see if you're okay with it and if you like it or don't like it. But you really have to face with the uncertainty, especially in this career, in your everyday life. You really have to.
Absolutely.
And like,
Absolutely.
what was kind of like the biggest challenge for you? I know you've been doing this for a very long time and stuff.
Mm.
What was kind of like the biggest like challenge for you personally with taking risk and being uncomfortable and taking new stuff?
Well, gosh, there's so many. I don't even know if I could pick one. What comes forward for me in this moment, and this is very applicable to my life right now, given the impact we've had with the fires, is growing my muscle around self-trust. So moving from corporate to being an entrepreneur means you don't have dedicated income coming in.
Mm,
And now remember, I had two kids at the time. I had a husband, we had a mortgage, all the things that just sort of happen as you start to, when you're adulting, and really trusting that I had the ability to create clients, to grow this business, to create income. also trusting that if I made a mistake, that I would be able to course correct, that it wasn't going to take us completely down. So I think there's been the muscle around self-trust. Also the trusting around God. I mean, my relationship with God has evolved over the years. Um, and I think especially now, given the situation, not knowing where we're going to be in 6 months, what the future holds for us in the Palisades. What does that mean for my kids' schools? What does that mean for, my own business and how it's been impacted? So it's both, really growing the muscle of learning how to trust myself, but also learning how to trust that God has my back. And when I do fundamentally believe that when any of us are intentional and when we take action, depending on what you believe, whether it's God, whether it's universe, spirit, that they meet in the middle. And that's when,
Hmm.
you know, those moments of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. But that's when things start to fall into place. And so, I think I didn't always have clarity when I was growing my business.
Hmm.
When we step into the unknown, we don't really have a rule book for how it's going to go. We have ideas.
Hmm.
And even similar to right now, I don't have a lot of clarity, but I can still set an intention for my day and I can still choose a quality in which I want to show up in that will help guide me. And so I have some practices that I put into play, but I think at the end of the day, it's really been growing my muscle around trust.
That is such a big thing. Even if you are in a certain career or not, that you need to trust maybe your coworkers, whether you're in corporate, you're in entertainment, it can be anything. Trust is the biggest thing that you have to kind of do, especially around this time with the fires and the way things are right now
Hmm.
in our worlds right now. Trust is all we need, and to really find our really safe space to talk to other people. As you said
Yes.
before, you talked to your friend this morning about the fires, and they were asking well, how you're doing, and you need that safe space
Hmm.
because like you
Hmm.
need to have someone that is there for you when you need it. And whether
Hmm.
it's through devastation or just to have a normal conversation, it can be anything. And
Hmm.
whether you're dealing with a certain thing, like life gives us heartaches, don't get me wrong, but things always happen for a reason, even if it might
Hmm.
not seem like it for a reason. Like
Hmm.
even though, like, I'm the type of person that, like, if something doesn't, like, come off as I thought it would be, I would go head over heels for it, no matter
Hmm.
over a certain situation. And that is honestly not the safest thing for a lot of people because when I think about something, I become obsessed with it. And if it doesn't turn out the way I want it to, then I get upset over it. And that is a
Hmm.
way I know a lot of people are as well. But to become
Absolutely.
really just no not become obsessed with it but manifest it to happen
Hmm.
is such a big thing. Even if it doesn't happen immediately, it will happen no matter what.
Hmm. Hmm. Totally. Very well said.
So to wrap this conversation up, so with your upcoming executive coaching program, the board launching this spring, what are your goals for this program and how do you envision it empowering leaders to drive meaningful change in their industries?
Oh my gosh. This is my program called The Board, which this will be, I think, my 6th year running it. And normally we start it in March, but we have moved it back to the end of April this year. Even those who are not impacted, don't live in LA, have been impacted by the fires. The Board is a program that I created because I couldn't find it and I wanted something like it for myself.
Mhm.
I find people who have already experienced success in their career
Mhm.
and are nearing the top of the game or they are at the top of their game, it can feel really lonely. Often people are in the position where they are doing a lot of mentoring. They have close friends in their life, but not a lot of people that that they can really explore their own deepest desires that they have, and where they can get really valuable feedback and where they can be pushed. And so the board is quite fitting the name, because it's like having your own board of directors. And so this is a program that runs 6 months. I take no more than 10 people. And what's cool about it is that we meet on Zoom. So I often have people from all around the world, and I really love that. All genders, so it's not something specific. One thing I also really believe is that leadership can't happen in a silo. So as we are, people who join the board are people who are really committed to growing their leadership skills, but also in relation to other people. And so people come into the board and they have a desire often that they have been sitting on, that they really want to bring to life. And it could be everything from bringing a new product into their business, the way in which they work with their team, or it could be something personal like creating a new relationship. Anyway, we come together, and my goal for this program is that everybody not only comes into the program, but that they ultimately reconnect with who they are at their essence, and that they start to see themselves in a way that they haven't experienced before. And what I have found is people who come out of the board program, they lead from a level of confidence that, not to be mistaken for arrogance, but the kind of confidence I would call quiet confidence, where you just feel really good in your skin. You feel really clear on what lights you up. You feel a sense of aliveness, and you are in action around what it is you want to create. So this is, I think there's a lot of programs out there that do a lot of talk. This is not a lot of talk. This is also a lot of reflection, of course, creating, but then there's the getting to work piece. And so the board, I have people who have done the board more than once. I launched an alumni group this year, because people I find who join the board, they make lifelong relationships with people that they feel like are their people. They can pick up the phone at any point and say, hey, Sarah, I'm thinking of this. I don't know, this is how I'm showing up, or I'm feeling this way. Is there anything you see for me? And they really learn what it's like to be a stand for other people. And my other huge goal for people, oftentimes people who are high achievers, are doers and really capable, they haven't learned how to receive. And what I mean by receive is learning how to be supported. They're often the ones doing the support. And so people who come out of this program, that's a muscle that they also get very familiar with. And once you learn how to receive, you exponentially grow, your impact grows, and you just feel a much greater sense of being fulfilled. So that program, we're enrolling now. It will start end of April. And then there's also a in-person retreat that's included. And we've done it everywhere from last year it was in Sedona. I did it in Costa Rica 2 years ago when my family and I were living down there for 6 months. And then we've done it in Zion National Park. So it's always in a place that I find is extremely spiritual and just offers a lot of natural beauty. So if anyone is interested in the board, by all means, you can get in touch with me. And of course, go to my website. There's lots of information on there about it.
Like once you said Costa Rica, that basically summed it all for me because I'm a big traveler, and so like once you said those places, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to join this
Yeah,
program.
it's a big draw for people. Yeah, to be
You
able to
see, Costa
be
Rica is a
natural.
really good place to travel, though. Even if it's spiritual or not, it's really a beautiful
Mhm.
place.
It is, absolutely.
Like I know a lot of people that are listening are in leadership positions. So if people want to learn more info about this program, where can they find it?
Yep, I'd say the best place is go to my website, Sarah, Sarah, Gibbons, Gibbons, .com, and you'll see information about the board. It's the only program that I personally curate, that I run once a year as of now. Of course, that could all change in future years, but that is the program that I facilitate and that I curate for. And I would say one of the gifts that I have amongst my gifts is the ability to really bring interesting people together who they cross on values. They might have different beliefs, but there's absolutely threads. So if you are someone who values deeply values connection, who values service, who values experience and
Mhm.
impact, and really what I would say excellence, not
Mhm.
perfection, but excellence, then this is a program I would invite you to look at and consider.
Definitely, I totally recommend. I will put it in the show notes below for everyone to check out if you're interested or want to learn more about this program. I hope you guys look into it because I know I definitely will. It's definitely a great place to really grow your skills, whether you're new to your field or just up and coming, or you've been doing this for a few years. It's always a great place to learn. I really thank you so much for doing this. It's a really great program.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I so appreciate anybody who's willing to branch out and share your own thoughts and run a podcast. It isn't easy, it takes time and it takes a lot of self-trust. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you so much. That means the world. And thank you so much for coming on and taking the time. I really appreciate all the hard work and dedication you're doing and the things you do for people. It really is making a difference. I really thank you so much for coming on. And thank you everyone for listening. I will put all the show notes below for everyone to check out. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and make sure to like, subscribe, and review. And I'll talk to you guys very soon.